Okay, so now we will start drawing the diagram of what I personally call the big macro model. It is the big macro model because this is something which brings ISLM and ADAS together to make clear of the fact that ISLM is sitting in the background of the ADAS model. Okay. Okay. So let us just draw the diagram. We'll go very slow because even I may have to adjust at some point the whole diagram. Anyways, so here in the first panel we'll draw ISLM. So here I'll have Y, here I'll have R, and then here I'll have Y again and P. Okay, now as I said, first we'll start with LRAS, and that is corresponding to Y bar. And if we want to draw the LM curve, then the classical LM curve is essentially vertical. So that we have seen. Okay. And obviously this will also correspond to Y bar. Now we have, let us first draw here AD. Okay. And yeah, and this is my, sorry, P naught E. And let's just first draw the first corresponding IS curve, and just draw it like this, just to make things a little bit simple, basically. So this is, let's say, R naught. Okay. All right. Now, let's just say that money supply increased. So I have a shift of AD like this. Okay. Now we said that if we keep the price fixed, then the this will be, let us put a higher gap between these two areas because if we do not do that, then we may actually end up with little space to show the other points. Okay, so this P naught will be equal to some P naught E, and money supply increased, right? Or no, let us take, for a change, let us go with fiscal policy. So let's say G increases. So if G increases, aggregate demand shifts, and so will be the shift of IS curve, but we'll go to that later. So if price is fixed, then we would have reached a point like A y hat, and this y hat will correspond to the equilibrium in ISLM. But how will that work? So we have a, if we have a short run scenario here, we can also have a short run LM curve here. Okay. And for that matter, I have drawn this vertical LM curve more for reference. So that will be clear later. Anyway, so if I have a, so let's forget that this is LM curve for the timing. I've just drawn a vertical line. Okay, so now if I draw an SRAS curve here, so SRAS naught. So I said that y hat belongs to basically ISLM. So how that is happening? Let's check that out. So let's say this is the LM which corresponds to P naught, because as we know that ISLM is a price fixed model. So if I just extend this, I hope I'm drawing a straight line. So this is the kind of rise in shift in IS that we are talking about. Okay. So now we can go back and see what we just did. So here we have at some equilibrium E, which is both LR and SR. Okay. And the corresponding ISLM equilibrium, let's say this is E dash. Okay. Now let's say G increases. If G increases, we have two things. We have IS shifting outward and we have AD shifting outward also. Now, if we keep the price fixed, then we get the output that is observed in the ISLM. Okay. And that is here mapped at Y dash. Okay. So let's just say that this point is F dash. Now think of this. If interest rate is constant, then where do we go back? This is a huge thought process or thought exercise. So if R is fixed to R naught, then we go back to SKM, right? Then go back to SKM. And if we do that, then fixing R naught, what will be the output? The output will be, we need even a bigger IS curve. So the output will be somewhere here, right? It will go like this. Anyways, so the output is not really important. What is important is that if I say that this is my F, okay, and if I just extend it, and let's say this is Y cap or hat, whatever you say. This is the part where I have the first crowding out occurring. So we can write it like this. First crowding out. Okay, I wrote the long spelling, sorry. So the first crowding out is Y hat minus Y dash, and that is happening because we have an LM curve here. But that's a very bad way of saying it. So the reason is monetary transmission mechanism, something that we studied in ISLM, monetary transmission mechanism. Okay. And the rest of it is known to us. So for example, from A, we have basically an equilibrium here. We do not have A, we have an equilibrium here at this point, and let us say this is some A dash where price has increased to P1 and output, do not ever say decreased. Rather, we will say output did not increase to Y hat, but restricted to Y1. And corresponding to that, if we go, what do we find? We find the second LM curve. And we will have a shift indeed. It will be inward shift. Why? Because now price has increased. So P0 has increased to P1. So naturally we have LM curve shifting not outward but inward. Okay. So F2 dash is the ISLM equilibrium which corresponds to this Y1. Okay, let me remove LRAS because we have a space constraint here. So we know that this is LRAS, right? So let us write LRAS here. Okay. So here we have our Y1, right? So we have a higher price, LM shifted backward. So that's natural. Now, as we know that this is the zone where the second crowding out occurs, right? Okay. So the second crowding out, and that remains, yeah, y dash minus y1, right? And why does that happen? Because prices rise. But if you want to go to the deep of it, then we can always so there are two different arguments here. Try to understand this very clearly. When I'm saying why the output is not staying at y bar, but it increased to y1, I'm using the logic of sticky wage model. I'm saying that price increases, real wage reduces, labor demand increases, output increases because you have to supply labor. But if I'm asking about the crowding out, if I'm asking that why y hat is not reached and y1 is reached, then the argument becomes very different, because then the argument cannot come from y hat, it should come from y dash, right? So we are arguing why it reduced, and for that we need the backward shift of LM curve. The backward shift of LM curve. So from that we can understand why at all this happened. And why this happened? Because when prices rose, then the real value of the increase in money supply, or the real value of money supply, that basically reduced, right? So we have, if we so as we call it, supply of real money balances, that basically got reduced, and in effect, interest rate increased, investment reduced, so reduced the aggregate demand, and but that reduction in aggregate demand is very different, in the sense that by the reduction of demand, we are saying a movement along aggregate demand, right? Okay, so let me just write it so that it does not go out of grip. So we are saying that P increased, and in that sense M by P reduced, and this is real money balances, so that reduced. In effect, interest rate increased, and that is coming from ISLM, right? You can argue why, if money supply decreased, why that happened, and that decreased investment, and that decreased aggregate demand, and obviously the resulting Y. I mean, it restricted Y basically at Y1, right? So Y gets, right, like this, Y gets restricted. Okay. All right. And we know why this price has rise. This is rose because price is a markup over marginal cost. Okay. Now, what we have now is an upward revision of expected price, or upward revision of expectation. And since the observation is that price level increased, the expectation will be revised upwards. So we have another SRAS curve, which is SRAS 1, and let us mark this point as A dash, and this price is some P2, which is equal to P1E, and at this A dash, obviously price rose further, so we have LM going backward further, and this LM essentially will correspond to the new actual price, which is P2, and the equilibrium will occur at F triple dash. And this is the crowding out at the last stage, which makes it full. So third crowding out, and output returns to y bar. Okay. Now then again, third crowding out happens again for a different reason, in the sense that this chain that we talked about, that remains there in the third crowding out, but something is added here. And what is added here? The third crowding out starts with PE, expected price increases, and which increases the actual price, and then the same chain starts working and ends up at y bar. So attain y bar. Okay. So this is the structure of the full crowding out, which is divided in 3 stages. And if we go by the joint dealing of ISLM and ADAS model, we realize it in a far better way. Okay. Okay. So one of the subtle point behind all of this study is that in general, boom is good, as in the sense that when an economy goes through a boom, nobody restricts it because it's good. And when the scenario changes, the economy goes into a recession, then where all the concerns comes in to play. Okay, so currently we have explained the scenario, the scenario of a boom and how it returns back to y bar. And the only subtle point that we just made underlying the whole scenario is that the economy going to returning to y bar from y1, that happens sort of automatically, and that gives a strong argument for no stabilization policy at all. So boom can actually turn bad, and it turned bad in many economies. Okay, so in US 2008 recession, that actually basically all started with a real estate boom and then turning it bad. When it happened to China, China acted in a very different way, and then China ended up with ghost cities. So there are arguments for and against of whether we should restrict the boom or whether we should allow it as long as it plays well or as long as we can have it. Okay, so there are arguments on both the sides, but one of the important thing here is that since the economy, if this analysis is correct, then it says also that the transition path, it sort of automatically returns back to y bar, and that itself says that then what is the need of a stabilization policy? We should not do that. Now, Keynesian economics, it started its journey in the background of a recession, and that's a very, very important point, because many of its objectives or sort of beliefs, it comes from the scenario that was observed in recession. For example, Keynesian structure, it never believes in a very stable demand for money curve. It says that money demand itself is a very unstable kind of a function. And also, one of the strong policy suggestions of Keynesian structure is that interest rate must be low and stable. Okay, so both of them are needed. It must be low and it must be stable, because it relates to a lot of things. Anyway, so that has another story behind it. Now, the problem with the boom is that, as you can see, that in a boom, the interest rate also increases, and it increases to quite high. And if you look at boom periods in India also, you will see that interest rate goes quite high. Okay, so from the idea that a stable and low interest rate is good, generates the idea that you should restrict a boom through a stabilization policy. And some sort of that is observed in China. Then again, the opposite thing is that here we see that the stabilization, it occurs automatically. So because it occurs automatically, why will someone try and mess it up? Okay. But in US 2008 recession, we saw that a boom in the real estate sector, it turned bad. All right. So there is this conflicts and several points of arguments here. But let's just clarify the point that I was making, that okay, let's just clarify that. The discussion regarding the transition path, the discussion regarding the transition path shows that whenever fluctuations are observed, in short run, it gets restored in long run with y equal to y bar and u equal to un, where un stands for the natural rate of unemployment. Okay. Now we can, I think, erase the ISLM model at least. Okay. So this is why Friedman said that the economy has an inherent tendency, to restore over the long run. Hence, there is no need of stabilization policy. There is no need of stabilization policy as it subjects the economy, into another fluctuation, into another fluctuation and disturbs, or rather upsets, the process. So basically, if it is being restored automatically, why will someone take a policy? Because if you take the policy, then again some disturbance will occur here, and that may result into a lot of things. But Friedman pointed out something very different, connected to the policy making itself. Okay. The implementation, or let me connect it like this. So this is because the implementation of stabilization policies, this is because the implementation of stabilization policies come with 4 lags. And what are they? Recognition lag. So what did actually happen? For that matter, something did happen. Then decision lag, what to do? What exactly to do? Then implementation lag, and then 4, adjustment lag. Okay. And as you can imagine that in a democratic structure, these are very important points to consider when someone is talking about stabilization policy. Okay.